League Awards, November 18th. Twitch TV Cadril, 18 Central European Time. Will I be there in person? Maybe. Will we be three bald heads just talking about League? Maybe. Or is Cadril a fraud? And we will find out. Let's scroll down. Let's do the nominations. As a person who has watched every single major region game this year besides LCP, I watched some playoff games. I am an authority to say that my LEC player of the year is Kana. I already wrote it in because this is the second take of this video that I'm doing because I kind of stumbled on my words. So, Kana, as a player, if you want to remember him for his last series, then, looks kind of rough. Oscarin kind of smoked him. But I do think that Kana was above and beyond amazing, especially in the split that they won. He was a massive force for the team. I think also in spring, the main player that kept them competitive was Kana. And then leading into summer as well, I think the person that made them go to playoffs and win a lot of the games and drag them over the finish line was also Kana. I think he's the player that kept the highest level through and through. Other players, if you want to point that out, like, Elioya could be a player that belongs here. I think Elioya is a good shout too. If we look at G2, I think that, those finals were rough on Skumond, but I do think that Skumond had a very steady ramp up throughout the year, and I think his spring was fantastic. His summer was really, really good. Caps had good moments, had bad moments. Maybe I'm too critical of some of the G2 players because I'm so used to a standard that they set, but I feel good about nominating Kana as the LEC player of the year. The next one in line is going to be LTA player of the year. As a coach that has been to the Worlds, 4 times in total, I can say with confidence that the person is inspired. Inspired, I think that he carried the hope of an entire region in terms of what this region could do internationally. And I think it was rightfully so. I think in terms of Inspired's impact on FlyQuest regionally and also internationally, especially at, of course, MSI, where they smoked G2. And then later on, the main flag bearer of the region was Inspired. And I think that nobody else belongs in this category. I think looking at the rest of FlyQuest, maybe you can give a shout to Busio. But I do think that Maso and Busio, they were too weak laners for me to even consider. And I think that's a fundamental part of the game. We continue. As a person that has coached in the LCK, while nobody else did from the West, I can say with confidence that the player of the year from the LPL is Tarzan. Tarzan, even when AL was at their worst, that was Tarzan trying to 1v9. I think there was no period in this year where Tarzan was underperforming. I think him and Owner were by far the strongest forces in jungle. And I do think that highlighting Tarzan in this year is extremely important because I feel like this year was the year of the jungle. Every time we looked at the junglers at an international tournament, it was a long list of demons. Canyon, Owner, you had Tarzan, you had Kanavi, you had... even from Europe, we had like Elioya, Skumond, Inspired. We had always dangerous forces in the jungle position. And I think that Tarzan played even super well in the last series that they played against T1. He played fantastic at MSI. There was very little to critique against Tarzan. I think that he was just so damn insane this year. And I think that, everyone knows how amazing Owner is and how great he was this year. And this was probably like the best career year of Owner, in his lifetime. And that is like in comparison to a player that has had like some great years, and still Tarzan and Owner were like neck and neck. I think you can give best jungler of the year to either one of these players. LCK, player of the year, as a man who is 195 meters, that is 1.95 meters, I can say with confidence that the LCK player of the year is Keen. So, in the context of Gen G and their dominant run, I think the person who was the most consistent from day one till all the way till the end was Keen. obviously, that, Yorick game where he walked down to Drake, that game 4 against KT, is something that is burnt into my memory. You have to keep in mind that the LCK and the LPL players, they played like 200 games this year. You know, if you want to, obviously, I value the World Championship very, very highly. In the context of time, it's like Worlds is 1 month a year in contrast to everything else. Like you play like 15 games. It's a small percentage of your overall volume. If we want to like attribute like a significance percentage to it, if we look at the whole year, it's like we're talking like 30-40%, which is still a lot considering the volume. It's like you have 180 games outside of World Championship and then you have 15. And I do think that Keen was so damn good. Even in the How Alive series, Keen was solo killing Zeus in skill matchups. I think that he played every style top lane like to perfection. I don't know how many champions we can list that you just saw Genji lock in and you're like, oh damn, you shouldn't have given Keen Ambessa, shouldn't have given him Gwen, shouldn't have given him Poppy. Keen Sante, baby. Oh, his sounds mean too. He can play a tank, he can weak side, he can carry games. Camilla was also fantastic. Jax was great. I think that Keen was just the most complete player during the entire year. Ruler was very weak in spring, and I think that he was weak in winter too. MSI was a big ramp up for Ruler. Duro as well, he ramped up over the year. I think that Chovy, I think that he had periods where he was like, okay, middling. He was still dominating the numbers, but I do think that Keen was like by far the most consistent player, and his consistency it just means that the floor of Keen was so damn high. The floor of Keen was basically some of the best games of your favorite top laner. And I think in a world where, you needed to be able to do all of those things at the same time in Fearless, I think that Keen did it with poise and with, of course, strength. As an owner of 2 beautiful cats, to be fair, they own me. I am their dog, which is ironic. The LCP Player of the Year, for me, is Hongq. I think that Hongq had a fantastic first year. I think he had really good games against some of the best players in the world. Internationally, I think it was very clear that he was lacking experience at certain points, but that is like natural, right? If we look at the international games that you are facing, the players that you're facing internationally, it's always the usual suspects. The lineup is always the same guys. It's always the same mid laners at these tournaments, whether it's Zeka, Chovy, Faker, whether it's Xiaohu or, Xiaohu didn't make it this year, but Knight and so forth, Caps. These are all very, very, very experienced players, and I think that Hongq had a fantastic year. It's like even looking at LCP playoffs, he was so much better than every other mid laner that most matchups were a joke for CFO. The Vietnamese teams, they have the struggle, of course, that they don't have any mid laners, which is a tricky thing. And then, of course, PSG had the return of Maple. But credit is given where it is due. And I do think that Hongq had a fantastic rookie year. I'm excited to see what CFO cooks up with him next year, unless Hongq moves to, of course, a different region, where we will, of course, follow him and watch him closely. Team of the Year. This is where I become afraid of saying the truth. The Team of the Year is Genji. I know that KT series was one of the most blatant chokes I have seen ever. The way Chovy died in that Orianna game, or as I mentioned before, Keen fighting a dragon at minute 10 with Yorick bringing his wife, and then letting Ornn get prio and then TP into a fight, saving Ornn from the imprisonment that is the Yorick lane, is absolutely crazy. That is absolutely nuts. But Genji, even looking at the other parts of the tournament, the How Alive series, they were pretty damn good. Sure, they lost against AL, but I think that the rest of the year deserves praise and deserves a lot of credit. 29-1 that is a period of dominance that is unheard of. 29-1. We had a very unique format in the sense that we had, of course, you know, two seasons, two splits kind of melting together. They lost one best of three against T1, and they managed to, of course, dominate in the LCK, while the LCK had some of the most stacked teams in history. If we just look at how the rosters were built, Our Life, T1, Gen G are all like GMing masterpieces, and that's a big part as to why the LCK was so dominant, right, throughout this entire year. And I think Gen G deserve praise for that. At MSI, they were the clear favorite. They managed to do a reverse sweep against Our Life, which was also fantastic in the spring to get the #1 seed coming into MSI. Obviously, it's very painful that still in Spring Split we didn't have a finals, but even in winter, HLE made first stand, but they also, of course, Gen G took them to 5 games. So even in a weak split for Gen G, they were the second best team. Obviously, it's harder to measure because even in that split, LCK format was so trash that all we got to see was T1 play a best of 5 against HLE, and then they were out of the tournament, which of course made no sense because Nongshim just got beaten by D+, and then they lost against the lower bracket team, which drives me insane. But I think there was a very, very long period where Gen G was clearly the best team in the world. I think HLE was the best team in winter. I think that Gen G was the best team spring through summer leading up to the World Championship. And then, of course, T1 won in the end. But I think in terms of that dominance period and the volume of games, I do think that Gen G deserves Team of the Year. I really think that this is an award that should go for, of course, to the team that has the longest period of dominance. If there was a world like, let's say, T1 won Winter Split and then they won the World Championship, I think that they deserve the award. I think that makes sense. Like, let's say 2022, T1 wins, they won the Spring Split and then they win the World Championship against DRX. I think that is a period of dominance that passes the bar in my mind. But T1 was either like third best, second best, and I think that this makes the contention a little bit more clear in my mind, you know? So that would be my counter argument for the other ones. And before you even dream, not a single LPL team deserves to be here. Not a single NA team or EU team or LCP team. This has to go to an LCK team, and I do think that team is Gen G. Player of the Year. Well, with the rationale of what I've mentioned before, I do think that the context here really matters. Yeah, I think I like it's pretty much in line with a very similar answer. And I'm saying this as a 29-year-old that is turning 30 soon. I'm an ancient relic with a lot of experience. So as an authority, through the age and the wisdom I have acquired, I think the Player of the Year for me is the LCK Player of the Year, which is Keen. I think that you could argue, maybe you can slam in a little Owner here. I think that Owner would be like the one to, like Owner could get a shout here, right? I think like that's the other guy that could be like a Player of the Year, but I do think that Keen belongs here, and I'm just going to, it's the same rationale as the LCK. Rookie of the Year, even though we had a situation where Kalist won Rookie of the Year in the LEC, I do think that Skumond, considering he went to the World Championship and they managed to beat FlyQuest and so forth, I think the fact that he got to go to 2 more internationals and got to showcase more of himself, I do think that Skumond stands out here over Kalist. I think that Kalist, you know, sometimes you're a victim of your circumstance and you don't get an opportunity to show yourself against the best. He had a very good run in Winter Split, of course, and I think that he did a you know, splendid job at first stand, Kalist. But sometimes you're just a victim of your circumstance, and Skumond is, of course, a benefactor of his circumstance. But I'm not saying he's some kind of Nepo baby. I'm saying he was in those circumstances, and I think that he delivered. So for me, still, the big competitor here as well would be also Hongq. And I think it's just harder for me to hold massive amounts of praise for Hongq against the other guys in Europe. Because I do think that competitively, for example, Scumond had to fight against, you know, many strong junglers regionally. And I think that matters. And I think, you know, the LCP definitely has like a mid lane problem. So I will drop Scumond here. Oh, I don't know why I wrote, I don't know why I wrote Scumond. Scumond. Let's continue. What are these categories? Esports Creator of the Year. So this might seem like I'm stroking my own ego, but this is more of an admittance of me being a small bean, because maybe nobody's gonna nominate me. So I'm gonna throw my own name there. If I don't love my own content and love what I do, then what am I doing? Shout out to me. Community Creator of the Year. You know, Dums invited me to a lot of shows. So Dums TV, let's throw him in there. Moment of the Year, honestly, BDD solo killing Chovy. Azir Oriana matchup. I feel like the whole world, at least my whole worldview shattered in this moment. Not that I think that BDD can't like beat Chovy, it's just that the way Chovy died. That was like, the way he died was basically the entire chances of Genji, you know, winning worlds also dying at the same time. Broadcast Talent of the Year, honestly, I think Caster Jun, bro. Bro, I watch so much LCK Korean cast and I love it, bro. I love it. They get me so hyped up when I hear a D plus Kia, or when I hear something like you know, a T1 or a Genji or a Chovy, or you know, like it's goated. I'm attributing this to Caster Jun, but some of the other casters, or the LCK, bro, just the LCK cast, Korean cast, like just pick any legend, like just the LCK Korean cast is goated. I don't care, bro. Content Piece of the Year. Not gonna lie, for some reason, the TFT Lore and Legends video, I think that video is goated. I don't know what you guys think. Maybe I'm thinking too short-sighted, but I think this shit is just fantastic. Fan Art Piece of the Year. The Shy Rap by Kadril. All right. Play of the Year. Nothing really stands out. What am I thinking about? Play of the Year. Play of the Year. Gumayushi Ash. Game 5. There we go. Gumayushi Ash Game 5. I think these are my nominations. Kana, Inspired, Tarzan, Keen, Hongq, Genji. Play of the Year. Honestly, I don't know why. I put LCK Play of the Year Keen. And it's like a part of me wants to put Owner here for some reason because he won the World Championship in the end, you know, but same time, you know, T1 could never conquer Genji, you know, so I don't know. People are going to be mad at me. Who cares? That's just life. We continue. We submit the nominations. Woo! Oh, there's no fireworks? Nothing? No fireworks. All right. Okay, dude, come on, man. What's the budget at, bro? Yeah. I don't know, at the end of the video. Subscribe, I guess. Like, comment, and I will respond.